Welcome everyone, it's Unstoppable Stiletsy with yet another Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition casted game. We got another deathmatch today. It's just like the Age of Empires 3 you always knew, but with 20k starting resources in the start and post-industrial age. So, a lot of fighting, you know? Fighting begins right away here. And if you can't fight quick enough, you usually drop like a fly, so hopefully these guys can fight very quickly for us today. Before we get started, let's look at the map that they're going to be facing on. We got Deccan, you know? You know a map is really good when I actually know what its name is, right? You know me, I've done this map a million times in Wars of Liberty and D. The main feature is the big plateau in the center with the native settlements. It's really great if you can capture this because there's a lot of animals on, a lot of mines. And you just have to worry about walling off the little corners here, right? To avoid serious pressure. Of course, you could go around the plateau. You could even go up on this little river here, using the fords, walking across, and grab these trade routes. That's the other good thing about this map. Lots and lots of trading posts. That, depending on what your enemy's priorities are, can be pretty safe from a lot of pressure. Anyways, let's get started and see how these two do. These two teams, that is, since it's a 2 versus 2. Alright, so, let's get started. Okay, so, one side here, we got the, Lakota. Where is the Lakota? Here they are. Alright, so we actually saw them in the last deathmatch casting that I did. It was a pretty strong civ, I would say, you know? They kind of, I'm not going to spoil it too much, but they sort of, if Portugal was a turtle, their shell was definitely cracked by the end of it. Yeah, definitely. But anyways, what are we going to see here from them? So, lots of native embassies. Of course, they grabbed that big bun tech from the market, similar to mercantilism of Europe. Basically, it gives you enough XP to build a shipment. But of course, in Deathmatch, because you haven't sent any shipments yet, it ends up equating to like 5 shipments, because the shipments costs at that stage in the beginning of the game are so small, right? So you can essentially send 5 cards right off the bat like this. We see aggressive policy, lets the war hut units build military buildings, adoption, which makes villagers train super fast, which is great for a quick mode like DM. A shipment of Wakina rifles that gives them more HP, the kettle support, kinship ties, which ends up letting you train villagers from the native embassies. So these are all cards meant for fast gameplay. Lots and lots of fast gameplay. Because if you can't play fast at DM, you're going to drop like a fly, you know? You're not going to make it. You're going to be on life support, pretty much. Now we see some dragoons deploying from both sides up here at the top. Spanish dragoons as well as the guard Portuguese dragoons as well. This should be a pretty interesting one, you know. Technically, Portugal has the slightly stronger dragoons, I would say. And Spain, of course, their dragoons can get pretty good if they get some missionaries out with unction. Are we going to see any unction today? Hopefully so, because unction is, you know, a really good ability that lets missionaries buff up the attack of nearby units. So if they really want to get an attack advantage, that would be a great thing for Spain to do. Oh, we see the missionaries right here, though. This is exactly what they're for, is using their unction ability. No fighting for the bomb, though. I mean, they just still seem to be constructing right now. You know what I mean? Oh, we already see organ guns, mortars, and cove from the Portuguese. You know, these Moors are going to get right to work shelling the outposts and those frontal barracks. Yeah, exactly. Oh, look at that. Look at this. Lakota just denied them a settler building over here. Looks like for sure that, I would say these Lakota are in really good shape at controlling this side of the plateau at this point. We see the bow riders starting to fire their arrows into the rider numbers. This should be a pretty interesting duel right here. It definitely must be really nice for Lakota by the fact that they have control of this plateau pretty much, you know what I mean? They've got them capped off right here at their base pretty much, which gives them a lot of time to, you know, build military buildings. We already see some more huts developing. We're also going to see some corrals. We even see a little bit of Wakina rifle support up here in the north to assist against the Spanish. Spanish right now, they're doing a large wall of skirmishers. Culverins in the back. They're going to try to snipe away at these organ guns since they have such a short range, you know. But as good as the organ guns really are, they do have to get up really close, which gives Coles a really nice shot at them, you know what I mean? And if they can snipe them one by one, or even in multiple groups, that's really great, you know? It does them a great service. Is this one gonna work? Yeah, whoa, two organ guns. That was a good one. It looked so low HP that I thought, oh, you're gonna lose that one. Actually did a bloody good job at that, oh boy, yeah, ran that. Really good job. Yeah, very good. Very good job. But now we see the Dutch finally starting to deploy onto the plateau, so Lakota has to play a little bit more carefully at this point. They got a mix of skirmisher style units. We see C-10 bows, we see some Wakina rifles, and we see some bow riders. Now if the wood or the coin gets a little low, we might see C-10s. If the coin is low, we might see Wakinas if the wood is low. So, you know, I mean, it's an adaptability thing. And of course, with Lakota's early strategy here, they made sure they got lots of quick villagers from adoption and from the native embassies, doing a super boom, if you will. Also, they can put a couple of teepees around the base. This basically ensures the hunting and other gather rates near them is going to be really pretty much better. I think it's like 10 to 15%, is it? Like an economic theory. That's a pretty big difference, you know, and that can certainly help the Lakota keep up with some of their more pricier units like the mound ones. That's for sure. So far, the positioning here looks a little bit the same between Portugal and Spain. We do see those initial buildings up here getting shelled down from the Portuguese. At this point, though, Portugal's going to have to send some dragoons in to give Lakota a bit of time to fortify themselves. But unfortunately, they're going to have to retreat since the Dutch skirmishers are coming in to support the Reiters. Also, horse artillery. This is going to be good against buildings. This is going to blast at any of the Lakota infantry to come out. So they're going to have to tread very carefully here. What we see is interesting is that Lakota are actually opting to send some support to the Portuguese side, you know, in the form of bow riders, C-10s. Yeah, so a bit of skirmisher, a bit of cav archer, a bit of light cavalry. You know, I think right now the thing we see is a lot of light infantry and light cavalry, you know, skirmisher, dragoon. That sort of anti-cav, anti-heavy infantry combination here. Which basically discourages a lot of heavy infantry from being deployed for the most part. You know, in general, we're going to see a lot of skirmish units be used against the light cav. You're going to see a lot of artillery be used to kill the light inf, and then we see the light cav to kill the artillery. So it's like rock, paper, scissors, shoot, pretty much. 3 unit classes being the majority of the thing that's going to be used. Right now, though, it seems like Dutch are holding their own right here. You know, they got their horse artillery that's stopping any real building advance. The Rider skirmisher combo seems to be blasting their way through this infantry for the most part. I mean, they're not taking any real losses here. Unfortunately, we see some villagers coming on the front lines, though. Is that intentional or is that a mistake? You know, because that's going to be lost eco and you're going to have to rebuild those. You know what I mean? It's not the best situation to be in. Oh no, we see the chakrams. The Sikh natives. These things combined with unction, that could be a serious problem here. See, they're sort of like a grenadier. They actually have 2 splash, and they have an anti-heavy infantry multiplier, which most definitive edition grenadier units don't. So these things are actually kind of serious to deal with. You have to be really careful of them, you know? Really careful of them. And if they're boosted by unction, as you see, they can get close to over 40 attack. Right? So you have to be really careful of that. See some of the missionaries here always making sure they're near the Spanish troops to provide their attack ore to them. Because if you can soup up these guard skirmishers with the missionaries with their unction card active, they can basically blast their way through all of these light cav. You know what I mean? They can utterly destroy them. It doesn't even matter that they're Portuguese with extra card upgrades and the Royal Guard stats, they will be eaten alive by these skirms. I go for his cannon. That's a good point, Lakota. Try to target the artillery wherever possible. They're very expensive, and if you can snipe them consistently, you can definitely damper the enemy's economy because it takes a lot of coin to keep up artillery units. Also takes up wood units, which prevents them from going with all food and coin. They basically have to keep up with wood eco as well, if you can keep blasting apart their artillery. Right now, though, we see culverins on this side. I mean, if you're Lakota, you don't actually get any serious artillery units besides some sort of captured mortar you can get from the native embassy later on. So, you know, right now these culves aren't going to see too much action besides sieging, which they're somewhat okay at. You know, they're definitely not bad at sieging, especially since they have a bit of an anti-building multiplier and they can shoot from long range. That definitely helps them out. But now we see these exposed falconets here. These culverins, are you going to shoot at these things? Are you going to shoot at? Yep, yeah, good. Got that one. Get that one too if you can. Is that enough range, or is he actually retreating? Huh. Now this is interesting. We see the Maratha and Thuggies actually being boosted by the missionary's unction. I never thought of this, you know, but in practice, these Thuggies actually get close to 100 damage almost, right? Like 94 damage. That's pretty big, you know what I mean? It's pretty serious. But what's even more serious is we see a big group of Dutch skirmishers starting to attack the community plaza. This is very annoying, you know. The thing that Native American civs do in AoE 3 is they basically get big advantages by using their community plaza to get various dances, which ends up improving their stats, improving their training times, things like that. And essentially, as long as the fertility dance, which was just on, does, it basically improves the training rate of all units, which has allowed the Lakota to basically have like an active fencing school, riding school combo going on at the same time. But now they have to go on to the experience dance, which adds a trickle of XP, which gets stronger the more villages you have on the plaza. This is probably due to Lakota needing one of their cards here. I wonder what card that's going to be exactly. We'll see just very briefly what that's going to be. Oh, we see a resurrection of the war chief here, that dance. And when the war chief doesn't need to be resurrected again, it basically improves its stats, which can definitely help at both tanking as well as providing the HP ore to the nearby Lakota units too. Again, HP boost from having them around. Also, maybe you want to see some teepees be built on the front lines here. That would definitely help buff up the stats. Right. Oh, we see a bison shipment from the Lakota, so they're just trying to keep up their food economy, it seems. And by the way, what are these other people doing here? So, it looks like Dutch, mostly just bank upgrades and villager merchant upgrades, right? We haven't seen all the combat cards yet. We haven't seen this wood one yet, so yeah. And also what I find interesting is they actually have infinite shipments for the different cannons too, the different types of artillery. So in a way to mitigate coin and wood usage, Dutch are simply using their home city to add in artillery units as needed here, which is pretty clever. Just arrives a little bit slower. Oh, we still see more of these thuggies from the Spanish, so maybe that's going to be a forward-facing strategy for him, is use the missionaries to buff up the attack, you know, and then use the thuggies to blast through the Portuguese units. See, they're almost like a skirmisher unit, you know what I mean? They have the anti-heavy infantry multiplier, they got the anti-light cav multiplier, so they're really good at killing heavy infantry and light cavalry. But with an attack this high, they can even cut through a lot of the skirmisher style units, like the bowmen, like the Portuguese caçadores too. So that's something that this team here is going to have to be really careful of. You know, very careful of. Oh, we do see some training of coal from the Dutch, though. So they're not totally relying on the home city. You know, there is an advantage of sometimes training it from your foundry here, because it arrives a little bit quicker, I can imagine, and it also arrives closer to the front lines as well. Yeah. Resource-wise, they're doing okay in coin, I think. But you do notice their dependency on having to keep the factories on coin, though. This means a lot less focus on food. You know, we're going to have to watch real closely if these Dutch ends up losing all their resources and starts to struggle to feed themselves at all. You know, that could definitely pose an issue. Lakota's efforts to stall them by putting some walls up could work, but I think these culverins are just going to shoot down the wall. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wow. What just happened here? We just saw the Tejunke Prowlers sneak all the way around, and they're burning their factories. Wow, look at that. This is what Lakota do best. You know? This is why we like Lakota. They even have the siege dance. Oh, boy. You know what this dance does? It improves the siege of all units by a certain percent, by 50% right now. Their siege goes up by 50% when that dance is active. Look at that. Now they're going to go for the Spanish factories. If he gets all 4 of these things, that would be unreal. Look at this. This is a game changer. They're losing right now on the plateau. If they can burn these factories down, right, all 4 of them, with 3 of the 4 are dead, that effectively crushes their economy. And imagine all the time right here of these settlers not working for the Spanish. They're sitting there with the butts of their blunderbusses trying to knock those horses down. Oh, 4 factories down. That's just very serious. Yeah, Pink is just taunting at this point. What just happened? What just happened to us? We were doing so good on the front lines, and we didn't even realize what was going on over there. Wow. Yeah, that is some serious... Oh, no, that is bad. Lucky thing... Are they going to try to go for these banks next? Yeah, and what's going on here? Are we seeing a lot of progress from the Dutch and the Spanish here? Do they have any mortars? We see some coves here. But do we see any sort of, like, a lot of sieging? Oh, Dutch not happy. They're sending a group of skirms down here to try to cause some pressure. Right? You see the natives here on their tribal marketplaces trying to get the coin from this mine. Oh, now we're going to see the Lakota engaging back on the plateau again after doing the little raiding spree, if you could call it that, on the enemy field. Oh. 4 factories destroyed in one go. That is very destructive, right? How did the Spanish look right now? That is not what they need right now. Look at this. Spain is training more villagers as we speak right now, because they know without those factories providing the trickle, now they're going to have to lose some of their military population and add villages in just to facilitate additional training. And that's huge. That means less Spanish units to deal with, right? Which means more Portuguese and the Lakota victories. They're going to try to get their cavalry hit points up a little bit, it looks like. Maybe we'll see some Lancers or Hussars or something. You know, totally possible. But at this rate, look at Spain's food count. Not good. Under 1k food. Partly due to the settler training, but probably also due to the need to train additional units. Right? That is very serious stuff. You know, that is fatality level bad for Spain. How about Dutch? For Dutch, not as bad. They got the banks still, so their coin count might dip a little bit, but in general their economy should really not be as hurt, though. This was definitely fatal for Spain, though. Definitely failed for Spain. Oh yeah, it's very bad. Huh. And they don't have the haciendas either, which I found interesting. You know, they don't have that card that gives them the haciendas, because that could have possibly gave them a little bit more resources trickled in. But you do what you have to do. Let's see here if these thuggies and Spanish skirmishers with the unction can press their way through this army here. I'm not sure if they can, though. At least they're going to be able to deal with the mortars from the Portuguese that were shelling them back. Right? But they're going to have to find a way to blast their way through these outposts, these fortified outposts, and start to take control of this sector and start taking over the whole plateau. Maybe get some settlers up here and grab the meat, grab the mining. You know, that's going to be the only way that Spain's going to survive it. See, this is very bad for Spain. Look at that. The coin and the food is under 1k. They can't afford to take it, and their population is suffering too. Look at this. Close to half pop still available. In Deathmatch, that is your death, when you cannot make more units and you cannot keep up. Because you're going to put more pressure on the Dutch to do, and they're going to collapse. You need to find a way to get more resources. They're going to try to get sustainable agriculture to improve the mill gather rate a little bit. You know, that might help a little bit, but then your coin is down too. So what are you going to do? In Spain, you're just going to spam pikemen at this point, tercios? Is that all you can really do at this point? Yeah, I mean, wow. And then we see the Portuguese Minutemen sieging the walls of the Spanish up there. Yeah, this is looking like a complete turnaround. Oh, Portuguese Quetzalbash. Oh, nice, from the Sufi natives. Yeah, that certainly get those too, you know. They're a pretty decent unit against infantry, so they're definitely useful against skirms, you know what I mean? Especially their melee attack where they have the lance. They really puncture the lines of skirms really well. Oh, yeah, at this point... Yeah, Spain is effectively dead at this point. They just don't have the resources anymore. You see a group of Lakota bow riders engaging with the dragoons. They're going to try to keep fighting the Spanish units more and more here to try to kill them, because, as you can see here, they don't have enough coin to replenish skirmishers or dragoons anymore. So if they start losing these units, they're going to really start to falter, you know. They're going to have to start taking tributes from their ally, the Dutch, here, to be able to stay in the fight. And that's going to put a strain on them. Let's see here. What did Portuguese? So, yeah, Portugal's basically almost a full eco at this point. They are struggling in food, it looks like, just because of the massive stuff they're doing here, but they can still send a textile mill, which would help with the coin, so they can maybe build another mill, maybe. And of course, at this point, you know, Spain is definitely in a lot worse shape, so I think that the eco issue for Portugal is not as serious at this point, you know what I mean? If they can keep this pressure up here on the Dutch to a point that Spain can't help them anymore with the aid of the Lakota, that's going to be your ticket to beat this, you know? Let's see if Lakota and Portuguese can team up here against the Dutch, put heavy pressure on them, and enough pressure, in fact, that it turns into a 2 versus 1. Because if they can turn this into a 2 versus 1 on this front, Spain is in no position to come back here. I mean, look at how long it takes you to siege with these skirmishers and a couple of Espadachins, these Roderos. Not that good. Not that good. If I was Spain right now, I would start making tercios in large groups and start sieging the Portuguese flank here. Force the Portuguese back, because you really need that right now. You cannot afford Portugal coming down here with organ guns and dragoons. And yeah, see, Dutch knows it's turning into a 2 versus 1 at this point, and there's not much that the Spanish can do. I'm getting tired of this game, to be honest. I would be too in that situation, because you know you're doing fighting against both enemies now. Spain has effectively been crushed out of existence. We're going to see Dutch resign at any moment now. I'm better in 2 versus 2 than 1 versus 1. I can't play 1 versus 1. Yeah, well, you know, some of us are good at team games, you know what I mean? Some people like 4 versus 4, 3 versus 4, 3 versus 3. Really anything, you know? Some people have different skills, and some people like certain types of decks and builds that do better in team games. Builds are getting 10 times idle for a fucking war. Oh yeah, you know, You gotta love walls, you know what I mean? And you gotta love oil bills too. That's the one thing that kills your economy the most is lost villager seconds. So I can 100% agree with that. And it gives you a free ticket for factory. Oh yeah, that was the fatality of the century here, losing those factories. You know what I mean? It seemed like for all the early success Spain and Dutch had, it was attributed to their economy through the factories. Once they lost the factories, effectively dead, you know? Effectively dead. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you know, you got Spain. Yeah, I mean, they're starting to recover a little bit now, but only after the your allies resigned. Yeah, GG. Good job, Lakota and Portuguese, you know. They held their end of the fort just enough to be able to survive. I think Lakota was the MVP of the match, though. They managed to not only keep up a strong economy from hunting bison all the time and using the teepees to buff up their mining and their wood chopping rate, but they did a masterful sweep of the map all the way down a route that the Dutch led them to, basically, through the railness at that point, to the factories, up here and up here. That was the win of the game, was the sieging of the factories. In terms of resources, you know, yeah, Lakota actually had a big strength in their economy, even more economy than the Portuguese did. You know, you think of Lakota as being an aggressive. They're pretty good in eco as well if they got a strong control of the natural resources. In terms of the military, they had the biggest military count, and well, oh wow, their Portuguese ally got the biggest. Well, actually, Dutch had a bigger kill count. Spain, much to be desired though in terms of military. Anyways, that was a really fun one to watch. I was not expecting that factory siege there mid-game. That was a game changer, you know. I thought for a second that maybe the Dutch were just going to pound their way through the Lakota defenses at some point and start causing some havoc, but it ended up being vice versa. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed that one. Be ready for the next one that's going to be coming out. Signing off now. Bye-bye.